Hello everyone, my name is Woodrow. You may know me from the YouTube channel World of Woodrow, where I take a look at the week's news in the robot combat scene. And I'm joined alongside for today, Sam Elliott. Hi Sam.
How you doing, Javin? It's good to see you again. It's been a long time.
The lockdown has meant that you just don't see people a lot anymore. It's a very strange time we're in.
It really is, but we've got something exciting for you today, I hope. I'm sure you can tell by the title already why we're kind of excited to bring you today's video, but oh boy.
Almost a sort of, this wouldn't have happened without sort of COVID, so we're quite honoured really that today we will be interviewing two absolute legends of the sport in Rob Knight and Arthur Chilcott, Team Mortis. Very excited. Very excited indeed.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say they are Robot Wars royalty. I didn't really see much of their machines until the first World Championship. I was a bit young to see Series 1 and 2. I think I'd been about 2 or 3 at the time, so it was a bit before, I had kind of memory of these things happening. But going back later on and watching, the first couple of series, just how influential Mortis were and just how far ahead of the curve they were, because it's just such a, you look at the robot itself, and, sure, by today it doesn't seem very complicated, but, back in the day, this is, the only equivalent I can kind of think of is Rapid.
Yeah. So very over-engineered, made to be as pristine and as good as they possibly could get it.
Yeah, it's completely unnecessary, but at the same time, you just love it for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the entire beauty of Mortis.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I suppose, Jevon, it'd be rude to keep the ladies and gentlemen at home waiting.
Yeah, absolutely. Without further ado, we shall throw over to the interview. Hello, Rob. Hello, Arthur. How are you?
Very good, thanks.
Yep, same here.
What I have to ask is, obviously, we live in kind of very strange times at the moment. How have you guys been enjoying, or not enjoying lockdown? I suppose it's probably interesting to ask.
Well, I can say it doesn't affect me at all because I live in the middle of nowhere with no neighbours. Met in the forest.
Kill them all.
Yeah.
How about you, Robert? What have you been up to?
Just mainly looking after the kids, actually. But no, it's been a nice time. It's been very reflective. I just closed down a company and was in the process of moving into a new place when lockdown started. So I've just got a lot of stuff in storage, and now it's been relaxing, actually, on the whole.
Good stuff, good stuff. But obviously, not just here to talk about personal lives, we're here to talk about Robot Wars.
Yes.
And we spoke briefly before recording this, but you guys mentioned, it's nigh on 25 years ago now. Like, is it something you look back on with fondness?
I do.
Yeah, I'd say, definitely.
And hatred.
No, I don't think so. No, I mean, I'm still vaguely interested in doing it. I'd like to do BattleBots again. I'd do Robot Wars again, frankly, if it was still running. Looking at it now,
Yeah.
it was good times. It's good fun. Just rewatching the videos again, it was good. It was good looking back, actually. For a big smile on my face, made me laugh a few times.
Yeah, same here.
Excellent.
Yeah, I am still involved a little bit in the background. I'm a technical advisor to quite a lot of people. To people like Jono at John Findlay, Extreme Robots, and various other roboteers that contact me and ask about, how to use and what types of bearings and that type of thing.
So even now, still kind of helping out.
Yeah.
It's one of the great things in
Background.
this.
I don't want to get involved in the real side anymore.
No, that's
I'm
fine.
retired.
What if I asked you really nicely?
I'll
Bits and
happily
pieces.
make stuff, but I don't want to get involved in the taking part.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, okay. It's quite old,
I'm too old for doing that now.
Yeah, it's tiring. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, as an owner of a heavyweight, I can definitely attest to that.
Yeah.
So, how did you guys discover the show in the first place? I mean, obviously, the internet wasn't really in it like what it is today, where you can just kind of look things up and it'll be there. It was very much a much slower process. How did you kind of discover about Robot Wars in the first place?
That's through
You
Chris
remember, Rob?
Soulsby, in fact. Yeah, Chris Soulsby.
Yeah, Chris Soulsby in the Bizarre magazine.
It was bizarre. That was the name of it. I
Yeah.
Yep. Bizarre
He saw a small article in that and came to you, because I didn't get involved till 2 or 3 weeks later.
Indeed, yeah. Because so it was this friend of mine from university. He was my housemate, in fact, and he was reading. Saw an article in Bizarre magazine, BBC looking for teams to enter a robot competition, and we chucked some ideas about and entered it and got accepted, and then we realised we had to build it. So we were both engineering students at Cambridge. So who did I see? I must have got permission from someone. I can't remember how I got permission.
You were actually listed as through the car club. I can't remember what the society was called.
Car club? Well, no, we did that.
Yeah, there wasn't an engineering society as such at that time.
Okay.
I had to put my time down as car club. I can't remember exactly what the title was. Sorry, 25 years ago.
Yeah, sure. So some shenanigans, because the engineering department ran a very complicated system of logging time and materials and everything, which we really ran roughshod over, and that kind of started to speak off eventually. I'm not terribly sensitive to how systems are meant to work. So we just turned up and took the place over, basically.
Yeah, and I was assigned these 2 students to supervise them.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I got involved.
Fantastic.
That's how it started.
Fantastic.
God, he's going back now. We just kept turning up with armfuls of materials. We took all the benches, and then at some point you came over with a model you made of the axe.
Yeah.
And we were taking wheelchairs to bits.
Your original concept was 2 ice axes coming from each side, meeting in the centre at the front.
Yeah, and then a third one over the top.
Yeah, that was right. And I carefully explained to you just how impossible it was to make. And then I the new concept for the new mechanism, which between us we got working eventually. Eventually. Didn't it? Then it worked perfectly.
Well, I say that in one of them. I say it's finally working perfectly. Now we're retiring.
Yeah.
It took us 4 series and 1 war of independence.
Yeah, plus 2 battle bots.
Yeah, it's too complicated looking at it.
Yeah.
Far too complicated. But anyway.
The trouble is, we went into Robot Wars thinking it was serious, when in fact it was just a TV show.
Leads quite nicely into the next question of what was the inspiration behind Mortis's design. So who came up with the initial ideas? I'm guessing that was probably you, Rob, then, from what you're saying.
It was just discussion with Chris, and I can picture the drawing we did in my head of what we were going to do with these 2 things scything in from each side and one over the top. We had this idea that tank tracks would be better because you could keep moving when you were stuck on different things, and even if someone was like putting a chainsaw across the top, if you run the tracks it would then pull the chainsaw off, but I mean, in reality it would just knacker up a track, so that was never a good idea either. But the actual genesis is probably a lot of beer.
Yeah, I do remember one thing that you said to me at the time, when I asked you why was it this size, and you said you wanted it to be the size of a suitcase.
What, for transportation?
I've no idea, but that was what you said. You'd like it to be the size of a large suitcase because of the weight we were given, which remember was only 80 kilos in those days.
Yeah, it was all 100 without batteries, but anyway.
We got it down to 78.
Yeah, not in the first one we didn't.
No, but
without batteries.
Oh dear. But Rosie, you did mention, you entered Robot Wars Series 1 with the expectation of it being a serious competition, which obviously it wasn't. But did you, when you arrived, did you think you were going to turn up and walk it? Like, was there that kind of, obviously on screen it kind of looked like Cocky wanted to try and win. Was that genuine, or was it like kind of overplayed a little bit?
Personally, I never had any thoughts of winning. I just enjoy making.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Looking back at why we lost so often, it's at least partly because we never really looked at what it took to have a winning strategy, because that's not what we were interested in.
Yeah, we were more interested in building this robot.
Yeah, it was. So when we say serious, we mean, but it was serious engineering. But it was.
Yeah.
It was more in that that idea of building something and coming along and competing with it, but you're not really competing to win, but competing just to show that you built it and that it worked. In fact, that doesn't really make sense, but it was never about winning. And even
except Rob didn't like to lose.
Yeah, and so that's the paradox. Well, it's just childishness, isn't it? But I mean, no one likes. Yeah, no, I'll get upset. Particularly if I'd lost for stupid reasons, but I still didn't put the effort in to really work out how to win. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense either.
Well, let's face it. There was only ever one problem with our strategy, and that was that we never ever drove the robot before the competition. It was never driven until test day.
Yes, but that's part of it being too complicated. It was often not finished until it was a bit too late. And I suspect, in a way, that's why we did well in the War of Independence, because we weren't expecting to do it, so we didn't mess with it. We had it sitting there. I think we probably genuinely couldn't be bothered to do anything more to it. So
we were already 90% through building the new one,
which we never finished. So we just took along what we happened to actually, for once, know how to drive. That might have been some part of it. Or they might have just rigged it for us to win finally. So
I think the two fights with Panic Attack says they were trying to get Panic Attack to win. Yeah,
that's true. Looking at that, I agree. They were trying to get Panic Attack to win. And we did beat them all the same. And Frenzy, we genuinely beat. That's hilarious watching the end of that.
The best fight we ever had, that one.
Say again?
That was the best fight we ever had.
Yeah, no, that was cracking.
Frenzy, because it was genuine all the way through.
We smashed up their motors, smashed up the magnets, didn't we? Shattered all the magnets in that motor.
Fantastic.
But I'm surprised how aggressive I was afterwards.
Yeah, but people used to say about, it doesn't make very big holes or anything like that, but the axe was more a hammer than anything.
Yeah.
You know, you're never going to penetrate modern armour.
No, these days you wouldn't touch
rattling things loose inside, isn't it? And
it's funny watching it because it doesn't look like it's doing much, but if that thing hit any part of the person, it would cut it off. I mean, it was seriously powerful, but it really doesn't look it on the playback.
We spoke earlier about Recyclops and that fight. Personally, I think it's one of the fights of the series. Did you feel as if you had won it, or do you think it would have been sort of played out differently had the axe been there? Or
as far as I was concerned, we'd won. Other people thought we'd won, but the production people decided we hadn't. That.
What was the Recyclops the underdog in that? Was that how it was presented? We were certainly presented as the bad guys.
Oh yeah, that was when they first started making us as the bad guys.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that's what we mean by not being serious. It was, if you won because you happen to have won, then you should win.
Yeah.
But I mean that one was very obvious. Because what was in a way weird is they even include the bit. I guess they have to do it for continuity, where we get pushed onto the railings.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was actually after the fight had finished.
It was so okay. Oh, that's how they did it then. Because Recyclops was definitely couldn't drive anymore, and
both his drivetrains were off. We'd knocked
was
them
it both?
Yeah, both drivetrains were gone. Rex came and told me that himself.
No, Rex was a great guy. So, okay, yeah. So there was no dispute. We had won it, but that didn't fit the narrative.
No.
Sure.
And what I remember from that one is I actually at one point I tried to give him the footage, so I had the entire audience chanting rematch.
Are you joking?
And I hope they would do, but they didn't. I guess it was decided already.
I mean, there was a lot of gunning for Mortis all throughout that first heat. I mean, in the gauntlet run, the house robots are sort of impeding your movement, let's say, to get to the end zone, or sort of more likely just completely blocking the path and holding you back. It seemed like they didn't want you to go far at all.
In the gauntlet in the second series, there was a ramp, and I said to Rob, just come off the start straight over the ramp and you'll land at the other end, which is exactly what he did. We did it in under 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Then we went back and fought the house robots. Smashed the camera on Matilda.
I remember that. It's brilliant.
I suspect. Well, we were a little hard to handle.
Brilliant.
But I don't know. I mean, we weren't privy to any of those discussions as to when it decided that we would be portrayed in the way we were. But they must have this. It's a TV show, so the characters turn up. You see what you get. This guy has a tendency to overact and do this kind of stuff anyway, so we might as well keep pushing him in that direction, and we can chuck in a bit of the old Cambridge versus everyone else business, and it's a good fit. Makes sense.
Sorry, there is a good story that might interest you.
Oh, one more is as well. What's that?
I'm not going to mention any names, but there was actually an academic from Cambridge turned up at the studios, tried to stop us taking part because he didn't think it was right. Rob can tell you what was then said to him about the weapon stuff.
Yeah, so his argument was it wasn't fitting for Cambridge to be seen promoting violence on television, and the reply was, "Does that mean you're going to stop doing contract work for Vickers Tanks?"
Wow.
Because but this plays back in fact to the fact that because we took over the workshops to such an extent, and we got in trouble for that, I went straight to the head of the whole department, who was a very nice fella, and I sat down, explained what we were doing, and organised at one point a meeting for all our sponsors to turn up, where he paid for the tea and cakes, and he just said back down, let what he wants. So we just piss everyone off in both directions.
Yeah.
Right at the top, everyone in between just, what is this arsehole doing? And now the boss's said, let him do it, and I was not even aware that I pissed them off, so I just kept on doing exactly what I'd been doing before, which must have really pissed them off. But it wasn't malice, I just didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also have that tendency in people. So you can imagine myself and Rob just riding roughshod over everybody.
And everyone just getting annoyed, you have no idea why. Well, you obviously mentioned Rex, obviously, sadly no longer with us, bless him. Was there a good rapport with him? Obviously you had a couple of fights with him over the couple of series.
Well, let me tell you something there.
Go on.
I was invited to his house on many occasions when I was in that area before I moved out to France. So Rex became a good friend.
Fantastic.
I don't think we ever fell out seriously with anyone, did we?
No. There was a couple of fallen outs that were actually engineered by a name who I really detest, and that's Steve Carsey. And it's up to you if you want to leave that in.
Wow, okay.
Well, sure we'll leave it in. If anything comes out of the woodwork, we can sort out another occasion.
Yeah. What was it we used to call him, Steve? Sorry.
I used to call him Superficial
Steve
Steve.
Carsey. Superficial Steve, that was it, yeah.
Because he used to give these speeches to the assembled cast, I guess you'd call us. And I just didn't find him terribly sincere.
No.
Putting it mildly.
Fair enough.
But again, it wasn't serious. But I kind of regret it in a way now, because it was a TV show. And if I'd have realised that and not been so up myself about it, then we could have made it a better TV show, I guess. Whereas I guess from their point of view, they had to fight us quite a lot. I assume. I don't know. Be interesting to ask him. I'm not sure he talked to after anymore, though.
Oh dear.
I remember when I pissed off Steve Carsey most. We were talking about places where you could host it, and there was a game show being hosted by a guy called, I think, Dominic Diamond. Did that ring any bells? It was some tech type show of that era. And I really didn't like him as a presenter, and I said that to Steve, which replied, actually, he's a really good mate of mine. And that was pretty much the end of it. I'd probably spent quite a lot of time slagging him off, actually, and then that was it. So.
Oh dear.
There's one thing I'd like to interject here that a lot of you don't know about. Did you know that Rob actually worked with some of the guys from the BBC workshops? Rob?
I did, yeah. Oh God, yeah. I did one of Noel's house parties.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's true. But, well, they were good guys. I think there may have been a few of the younger, particularly kids of people, I think, ended up doing that show. It was a great atmosphere. All the animosity was on screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even all that whole thing with Ming and all the back and forth with that. What about Kim? Does Kim have any hard feelings about Panic Attack being beaten by us?
No, I don't think so. Kim actually gave me the actuator that we destroyed in the War of Independence.
Yes, remember that.
It's bent over at about 45 degrees.
Yeah, that was a good one. I really creamed that one.
Yeah.
So it was, it doesn't make any sense if you write it out on paper. You spend loads of time and money building these things. You take it along, smash it to pieces, and then you're really happy about it, and you give the smashed up bits to the people that killed you. I mean, it's just...
Yeah.
It works for some reason.
I think it's been a continuous theme going through this show's history and all the other shows' history is the camaraderie of all the builders.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's made the whole COVID thing so difficult. Because why would you go along if you can't hang out with all the people? Then it becomes very serious and it's not fun anymore. There's just no point doing it.
Yeah.
So, that was always the best bit. I think there was definitely a point. Maybe Gravedigger was one of the last ones where every single robot that ever beat us, we had helped repair just before the fight. Every single one, up to a certain point.
Well, that's part of the thing, right? You don't want to turn up against a robot that can't fight, can you? That's not what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's true. Just, where's the fun in that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Did show us fixing other people's robots for them.
Did they show that?
Sorry?
Did they ever show that?
No, they never showed any of it.
No, they didn't show any of that, did they? Not sure I even bothered to film it. But...
Yeah, I remember giving Suren Balandran, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly,
Which team?
titanium to protect his electronics.
Oh, the Leebot one.
No.
It was Oblivion.
Oblivion, yeah.
Sorry, I'll have to look it all up again.
That's all right.
Oh, that's a flat one that I...
Leebot,
we hit that one like 100 times. That was the young team, right? Oblivion?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember that one. We gave him loads of armour, because he said we can't afford any more electronics.
Yeah.
And it was all in the back right-hand corner, and I swear to God I wasn't aiming for it, and I hit it like 50 times. And I was so bad. I was so bad at aiming at that point, and no matter what I did, I just kept hitting that corner. But
it was all tactical.
I swear it wasn't. It was just ridiculous. I just remember thinking at the time, why can't I stop hitting that bit? We gave him titanium overlaid with the plastic, overlaid with something else as well, and we didn't do any damage to them at all. It looked good.
Yeah.
It worked out all right, but I remember that one. Good times.
Obviously, you beat them to win the heat. I think in series 2, I think it was Devon.
How do you know stuff like that? I can't.
That's amazing, isn't it? I love it.
I've done a lot of research.
We watch this stuff a lot.
I barely even watched it at the time. I enjoy it more watching it now, because I can see myself when I was young. But at the time, I guess we must have sat down and watched them, right?
Obviously, you say you look back with fondness. One thing that I particularly enjoy. Obviously, it seemed like the whole pits was against you. Obviously, shot for TV. I'm guessing there was none of that. It was all just good fun and banter. I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And Arthur's a very knowledgeable engineer, and he was constantly telling people how to fix things and make things better, and then actually helping them do it. So if they'd have filmed that side of things, it would have given totally the wrong impression about us.
Yeah.
Well, from their point of view,
Yeah, of course.
Why is everyone just mucking in? The earlier, the further back you go, the more clueless we were. And people would turn up with stuff which just literally couldn't work, and they just slapped it together and say, this doesn't work, we don't know why. So, well, this is because we built it like this. So,
here's why.
Add this link, do that.
Yeah. Well, the first one I remember was Detonator.
Yes, your favourite.
Yeah. They turned up with one single steering wheel that was operated by a servo. The only trouble is the servo was connected directly to the steering pivot. So all it did as soon as you tried to move it was locked up. It couldn't possibly steer. It didn't have a connecting link between them. But I pointed that out to David, and basically they went away and built a new robot, as you know.
Yeah.
Where Napalm came from.
Yeah, that was one when it was dragged through the opening sequence on a fishing line, right? I think
that's the one.
You might not be able to see it on YouTube. I'm not sure the resolution's good enough. But you can see it definitely when it aired on TV. I remember that.
So, Series 1, is over. Series 2, what upgrades did you make, or can you think of any that you made to bring Mortis back, and how did you think you would perform ahead of it?
The chassis was original.
Yeah.
Everything else was changed.
Is that when we went for brushless already?
Yep, that was when we got the deal with Infranor, who I eventually ended up working for.
Yep.
Okay. But yeah, we changed over from DC series wound motors to three-phase brushless motors, and
brushless motors in the late 90s.
Yeah, exactly. These weren't just brushless motors; these were industrial servo motors. Cost $1,500 or $2,000 each. And they gave us 4 of them. We'll say I ended up working for the company.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got them.
And then we got Ben on board.
Sure.
He designed the electronics, and he is an absolute genius with electronics. As anybody who knows anything about the electronics side of Robot Wars will tell you.
That's what Lee said. Lee said to me afterwards, because Ben built those electronics, so from scratch.
Yeah.
So Ben was a PhD student at the Department of Electronic Engineering. His PhD was on the long-term economic viability of brushless drives.
Yeah.
His dad used to do all of the EM suppression for the Ariane space program. So he had a long history, and he was an electronics genius, and he took from scratch, definitely under 6 months.
Yeah.
To custom build 120 amp triple channel 3-phase brushless mobile drive system which could fit inside the robot. And he did it all: the design, the manufacture, the assembly, the programming.
Yeah. Soldered every single component, and some of them were tiny, like 2 millimeters square.
All the radio interfacing, digitalized the entire system. And the boss of Infranor, the MD, said to me, it would take my guys 5 years to do that. And he did it by himself in 6 months. Definitely less than 6 months. And even, what's the guy, the tech guy that used to run the special effects?
Derek Foxwell.
No, not that. There was 3 of them.
Anyway,
the guy with the long hair, the long black hair.
Oh, bloody hell.
But he said to me, one of them said, even though we know it's homebrew and everyone else is running commercial stuff, I trust that one more than any of them.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
It was the very first time ever that anybody had done a 3-phase driven by a DC system.
Yeah, DC batteries driving AC 3-phase motors.
It didn't exist in industry, in mobile. It's the sort of thing that should be, or should have been, in military robots at the time, and is now.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, a lot of people run brushless.
Yeah, yeah. It's only recently it's kind of starting to take over the more conventional brush drives, but it's certainly starting to become a lot more of a staple now.
Drones. And the issue with drones is that the controller setup is wrong. So, but mobile, low voltage, high ampage brushless drives didn't exist. It's true, didn't exist.
That is ridiculous.
Nuts, just crazy.
Especially for the time as well. Like as you mentioned, I know a lot of teams had custom electronics because there wasn't any off-the-shelf speed controllers and such at the time.
Yeah, you can't handle the power.
But that is just, my mind has been blown by that. It really has. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And we ran that for a long time. I mean, that control block lasted and lasted and lasted. It was lucky too.
All the way through.
Got smashed up a few times. That did America. That did BattleBots.
Also, obviously, it clearly worked then. The stress testing as such, it clearly worked.
It didn't just work. It worked first off with no modifications.
I remember we all took photos of them once. You had to resolder one wire, and we all took photos of it. I'm not sure he got the joke at the time. Actually, I think he was a bit offended. He just didn't get it. It was just the ultimate form of compliment. But
you need to understand that myself, Rob, and Ben are not normal sort of personalities. We've all got our problems.
Deep character flaws is how I prefer to.
Yeah, yeah. I was told I'm not eccentric. I'm quirky.
That's very polite.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you who told me.
Diamond, mate. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Very talkative Diamond sometimes, but anyway.
Yeah. Easy to get off subject.
It's gone quite shy at the moment. Sweet.
Obviously, Series 2 didn't quite end, the way a lot of people thought with you guys winning.
How did it end? I don't remember.
You got pitted by Panic Attack of all robots.
In which fight?
Semi-final at some point.
we had a lot of airtime. I remember that stat. You added it all up. It was almost half an hour, 28 minutes or something. So I remember getting hate mail about that.
Well, there was the. I do want to talk about the grudge matches for a little bit, because there was the shot was you went to do I think it was the Skittles or the Gauntlet. I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah.
Or the pinball. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. But what happened was you set off and a track breaks straight away.
Sorry, my wife was just holding up a sign to me that says, "You're not quirky, you're a twat."
Hi, Jim.
That stayed in.
By all means, I don't mind.
Oh, it's not true. No.
Sorry, what were we talking about? Oh, yeah,
I'm sure that was the track getting knocked off. Well, whatever, we couldn't finish the gauntlet, right? That's definitely when things came to a head. Because I remember Steve just came down and said, "Don't worry, Spike shouldn't have been on." Or he didn't, but he just, "Don't worry, you can go again." And I said, "Well, no, that's not fair."
No.
And he looked a bit, he was like, he looked shocked at that point. And then he started waffling on about how you were never warned the spikes were going to be on, so it wasn't fair. And I said, "Well, that's not true. We were told the spikes were going to be on. It's just bad luck. It's competition, shit happens." And then everyone came and tried to persuade me to carry on. And Matt, that's the guy's name, Matt with the black hair. He was Matt finally managed to persuade me to let Ben Impey drive it, because I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Because we were making a point that it's a competition and we've turned up to compete, and if we lose in the beginning, tough rocks. That's how it is. I guess that was my stand. Or not even that grand.
Which is fair enough.
It was just, we didn't get it was a TV show. He wanted us to carry on, and I thought that was unfair to everyone else, so I refused to do it.
I mean, obviously, as you do mention, it is a TV show, but at the end of the day, I suppose it's also integrity on your part. Like, it's advertised as a competition. You treat it as a competition.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
At least you got to fight out with Napalm later on.
And then I don't know did they then have to change the competition format so we could come back in, because they needed us. They needed the airtime.
Yeah.
So from their point of view, it was a bit of a disaster.
You've mentioned there's a lot of sort of, don't want to say bad beef, but almost cross paths with production and things. Was there a part of you that didn't want to re-enter the following series after Series 2? Or was there?
Don't remember that.
I can be a tad belligerent and bloody minded, so I would have gone no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I got a streak of that as well. I don't remember it at all. Where was I even living then? Was I living with you by then?
Probably, yeah. No, that was Series 3 you moved into our house.
So I moved in Series 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, after you decided to quit your job at Nottingham.
Oh, okay, so
that was when we started building the new robot.
Okie dokie.
Series 4.
Which we never, in fact, competed with.
No.
Okay, so we kept Mortis going along all that time. No, for Series 3, don't recall if we had any bad feeling at all. You might be able to tell it from the interviews on what they screamed.
I mean, to be fair, like when you get to Series 3, you do seem a lot more relaxed about things. You seem kind of, obviously you kind of grown into the role at this point of the Boo Boys, if you like. Obviously, with the third series, you had the obvious upgrade, which was the lifter on the outside. Was there anything else major that was upgraded internally, or was it just very much kind of squeezing the lifter on?
I think to do that, we had to rebuild all the mechanisms, didn't we?
Yeah, everything was brand new on the mechanisms, although it looked externally the same. Because the lifter and axe use the same motor. You turn it way for the axe and backward, and the opposite way for the lifter.
And that's why the arm could get stuck out in positions.
Yeah. So
occasionally you'll see the axe is just flailing around, and each time it fires, the lifter gets a little bit lower down.
Yeah.
So we used a sprocket with some teeth ground out for a reset section, and that's how the lift was meant to come back down, but it had a tendency to
And a bungee.
overshoot.
Yeah.
And a bungee. So we couldn't
Yeah.
power it back down. It had a tendency to overshoot, and then at that point, the only thing you could do was to fire the axe to make the sprocket go all the way back round until the clears section came back into mesh or not mesh with the lifter arm.
Okay.
Touch unreliable, to say the least.
Yeah. It had one-way clutches in it,
Yes. That's
which
one of
controlled the
reasons.
direction of whatever was driving. I can't even remember what armour we had in Series 3.
Series 3 was the Kevlar carbon mix. Series
That's
2
when we
was,
first. That's right, because we did 2 series with that, didn't we?
I don't know. I'd really have to check the
Yeah. Series 1 was just the carbon fibre over plywood.
Okay, yeah.
Series 2 was titanium.
Titanium.
Because
And
that was,
Series 3 was the carbon Kevlar
yeah, and then I made that black shell for the final series.
with the silicon carbide.
Yeah.
It just got sillier and sillier and sillier. Didn't
Yeah.
Extra bling.
Yeah.
Diamond coated carbon Kevlar armor. Very good.
That's what they kept saying.
And it did work.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to
It
cut
was
the case.
silicon carbide abrasive embedded in the matrix, the carbon matrix
Yeah.
that I came up with, and it was absolutely amazingly strong. Because anybody hit it with a chainsaw or a saw or a grinder or anything like that, it would just destroy whatever touched it. It was at least as hard as anything that was touching it. Unless they had a diamond saw, they wouldn't get through it. Ben built a fail-safe into the system, and if it detected a overload on a motor, it would shut it down
Oh,
for a few seconds and then reinitiate. The trouble was the reinitiation takes 8 seconds, which he changed later. But the first iteration of the electronics, the first programming of the electronics, it had this 8-second startup sequence, and that was what caused the problem.
The other sort of external new thing that you had for Series 3 was the wonderful backpack transmitter.
Oh.
Was it particularly useful, or was it a bit of fun?
a bit of both.
But there was a very serious reason for it. Was the new radio?
Serious excuse, perhaps, is a better way of putting it.
Yeah, all right then.
More style points.
But we all had robot fatigue at that point. So
Yeah.
Ben built something. I think that's when Ben built that fantastically with a sort of battery charger.
Yeah.
I built the back rig, and I don't know, maybe you did something else as well. But we all took a break. We just had enough. It was just hard work building it, and we've been doing it for 2.5 years at that point. So we took a little break. Paul gave us that radio gear.
Yeah.
Because Ben was building his controllers for his jet engines, I think. And we decided, this is a bit heavy. We need something. Yeah, need something to hold it. So let's make something ridiculously over the top.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. It just seems like, at this point, the robot was kind of a second fiddle, and you're just kind of having fun with whatever else you could do.
Yeah, we got to our postmodern phase.
Obviously, we mentioned earlier briefly about Ming and the big wheel flying off it.
Yeah.
What did you make of that? Was there ever talk of a full grudge match later on? Because obviously, it was played up by production to they really wanted to fight you guys. They really wanted to get at you. Was there ever talk of just a grudge match in general?
I'm sure there was. Do you remember?
I don't remember. I really don't remember. All I remember is Mr. Carsey coming to me and telling me about how Andrew Cotterell's boys were crapping themselves, blah, blah, blah. So I went and gave him a reassuring word, and Andrew took exception to that. Well, what I didn't realise is that I was being manipulated.
So it was just part of the narrative. Did Andrew genuinely get upset by that? He was the one
Yes,
that
he
was wearing the
was.
beard, right?
He was at the time, not by the fight, but the fact that it seemed that we assumed that he was going to lose anyway.
Oh,
But that was because of what Carsey said to me.
fair enough. Okay, I don't remember that myself.
Well, no, because it was to me personally.
So I wasn't there at the time.
No, because I was involved in go visiting schools and so on, and help and get science clubs started,
Sure.
robot clubs and so on.
Yep.
So I was involved with young people all the time, as you know. Well, it was my job.
Were you outlook for the university as well then? Outreach?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah, and it was the robot really helped with that sort of stuff.
Sure.
Doing things like a week at Ironbridge Museum.
Well, yeah, I remember that. That was a good laugh.
Yeah.
I had the hexapod there, didn't I?
That's right, yeah.
Glossing over the Third Wars a little bit, obviously, by Series 4, it seems very apparent, you kind of allude to it straight away that, this is Mortis' last series.
Yeah.
Obviously...
Because we said so, or because it was just on because I don't recall.
To me, like, obviously, you say at the end of the heat, you say that, you're looking to build a new one.
Yes.
And then looking back now and kind of thinking, oh, actually, the way that you kind of, you seem like if Series 3 was relaxed, you looked like super, a piece with stopping, basically.
Okay. That's a good place to get to, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So was the kind of any, did you go into it thinking let's just go and trash the robot, or kind of what was the aim for the last run out with Mortis?
As far as I'm concerned, there was no possibility of anybody trashing the robot. Robots in the UK just didn't develop that well at the time. Not like they have now. Now I think the British robots probably lead the world on the technical side, whereas the American ones just go for brute force.
Did anyone have any heavy spinners back then? I don't think so, did they?
No, there was only really one, wasn't there?
Can't remember. When did Hypnodisc come in?
That was Series 4, wasn't it? We never.
I'm asking our interviewers because I can't remember.
They came in about Series 3, and
right, okay.
yeah.
Well, we never fought them. And we'd already done the first BattleBots then, the 99 BattleBots, and I'd seen what a big spinner can do, and I mean a really big one, Nightmare.
Oh, you fought Nightmare, didn't you?
We did.
Yes, Rob. Right? I said to Rob, just go head on into him, and he did. And he punched a little tiny hole in the front, about 6 millimeters square, and that's the only more damage that Mortis ever took.
That is seriously impressive considering what it did.
Yeah. The front of Mortis was 3.2 mil titanium.
Top of the carbon Kevlar blend.
4A titanium. It actually came from Marshall Aerospace. It was part of armour used on aircraft.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff from Marshalls. So because of, I think that was a very good thing about being at Cambridge. But the Cambridge Engineering Department had a good link with Marshall Aerospace, and Marshall Aerospace is where they developed the drop nose of the Concorde.
Okay.
And as it turned out, the head of Marshall was an old boy of my college, of Jesus College in Cambridge. And when he found that out, he was like, "Triffy, you can have anything you want." So we just used to turn up at the workshops and just pull out sheets and sheets of aerospace grade titanium.
Yeah, it's not quite as simple as that. They actually had racks where they'd either lost track or the numbers had come off or something like that. They had no tracking records of, so they couldn't be used on aircraft.
Yeah, that's a happy
used it for other things.
Aerospace state stuff.
Yeah,
because it has to be traceable. So
yeah.
Particularly if a sheet's been partially cut or partially treated, then it tends to be scrapped.
Yeah.
But we were getting whole sheets at times as well.
Yeah. Whole sheet titanium.
But that one was a lucky one. I mean, a lot of the earlier stuff though, that was Western Helicopters. I phoned at least 1,000 companies in the beginning. There was a designer, Samuel. What was his surname?
Samuel Leslie.
Great guy, great designer.
Yeah, Samuel Leslie actually ended up working for me for a few weeks.
Oh, okay, very good. Infranor.
Yeah, no, my company, Sigma.
Oh, very good. No, he was
I employed him for about 8 weeks to design a piece of machinery for us.
He could have actually taught you something.
Oh yeah.
Not many people can do that. Anyway, so he just used to leave me in his office. It must have really been a pain for him, but I used to just sit in his office for hours, calling everyone I could get my hands on. And we got all our batteries sponsored and the carbon fibre. I got Lotus, I think, to send me like a square metre. And then I finally happened to find some guy in Western Helicopters, and they trucked down 60, 70 square meters of scrap carbon fiber for helicopter blades, and that's what we are. That's what the first set of armor was made from.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Just like because throughout the show, lots of numbers were bound about as to how much Mortis actually cost.
It's all rubbish.
So,
No,
what's the truth?
If you went out and bought all the stuff in it at list price, that's the number. No doubt, slightly exaggerated.
Yeah.
That's my tendency.
It all started with an article in Industrial Technology magazine.
Did it? All right.
They did a guesstimate on what Mortis would have cost. This must have been Series 2 or Series 3. I've actually got a copy of it somewhere.
Good God.
But they estimated that Mortis cost between 120 and 140,000 if you had to pay for the materials and the time yourself.
Oh yeah, including the time. Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's been adapted into all the stuff on the TV that it actually cost that. These people keep telling me that Mortis cost over 100,000, and really we didn't spend anything on Mortis, did we, until later years?
Yeah, because I blagged everything for free.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of
motors. Actually, the person who probably spent the most money, it was Ben Gordon building the electronics.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry I never paid him back, to be honest. I've got to send him a check.
Yeah. Well, who else sponsored us? Reynolds Chains. They gave us all the chains and sprockets we wanted, including making special ones for us.
Yep, they even gave us money at one point.
Yep.
The cash we got. But all the aluminium was Marshalls, I think.
Yeah.
All the titanium was Marshalls. All the carbon was Westland. All the batteries were Yuasa. The custom NICADs were Yuasa.
The bearings were the Glacier Garlock DU
Jim
bearings.
Lopez, what a legend.
Yeah.
There was a guy I found at a company called DU Glacier Bearings, one of Arthur's favourite tech devices, lightweight sintered PTFE bronze bearing, Scottish company, friendliest people I ever dealt with, and God bless him, for nothing in return. I mean, just literally nothing in return. I would phone him up and he'd say, right, what do you want? And I'd say, if it's okay, please can I have 20 of these and 5 of those and 6 of these and 7 of them and 8 of them and 4 of those? And he'd go, yeah, that's lovely, we'll send them off. Monday you go, bye-bye. And they'd just turn up.
Yeah.
And I must have phoned him 3 or 4 times and I said, can I send you a T-shirt? Do you want to come and see the filming? And he'd go, no, you're right.
Just sort of the kind of guy.
That's all I can think of. Found one other guy.
Rob was the master of the blag.
Yeah, that's what I saved all my charm for, clearly.
Yeah.
There's one guy I found in a battery charging factory, I think, and I don't know if it's maybe the same kind of thing. And I just said, we're doing this thing, we're trying to get hold of some battery chargers, and I see you make them. And he says, yeah, do you want some? Yes. Can I have 12, please? Yeah, sure. And that was it. It was some people you had to. I would always say, hi, I'm a student at Cambridge and I'm building robots for a TV show. I mean, pause. And you'd either get a, yeah, all right, whatever, or a kind of, oh, that sounds interesting. And once they said that, they were
hooked.
fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seal the deal.
If you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, I mean, very much. I wasn't shy about asking. Some people got tickets and came to see us. Some people, I think we sent out a few T-shirts in the end.
Well, I still think the best thing we did was that organising that sponsor day at the university.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Demonstrated.
That was a good laugh. We demonstrated the axe and had 8, 9 companies come in.
Yeah. Plus,
I had no idea what I was
do
doing.
it as well.
Just did stuff, and some of it worked, and some of it annoyed people. But I was ignorant of my ignorance.
So you mentioned competing on BattleBots. How did it compare with Robot Wars? I mean, flying out with Mortis, did you prefer their style relative to the UK competitions?
Straight answer, yes.
Yeah, it feels like you've arrived. I mean, it's Hollywood.
Yep. A proper arena for starters.
If you're an impressionable young lad and you're invited to go out and film something in Hollywood, you think that's it, rock on, man. It was quality. Yeah, it's true. But everything's bigger and bolder, and they had that huge, transparent, $1 million arena.
Well, the important thing about the arena was the steel floor.
Yeah, Robots had a plywood floor, right? I mean,
yeah.
for far too many years.
And in the beginning, they didn't even have walls. They almost killed Jeremy Clarkson in the first series because they didn't even have screens up. I mean, it was just a different level.
Well, obviously
They were nice Americans as well, which makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Of course. Well, with one, obviously you talk about America. You obviously won the War of Independence and took home a trophy in Mortis's final fight.
Indeed. That's a good way to finish.
Absolutely. End on a high. Was it kind of sad to say bye to it in that way, or was it absolutely project was over? That it's proved its worth.
Yeah, I think that it was nice. We knew we were going out. We managed to go out on a high, somewhat unexpectedly.
Yeah.
But
it was a short notice thing, wasn't it? For the War of Independence, we had something like 3 or 4 days' notice, which is why we never did anything to Mortis at all.
Which why it actually still worked. We didn't mess with it. And I'm pretty sure at that stage we were thinking BattleBots was the way forwards.
Yeah. We were building a new robot for BattleBots, weren't we? It was aimed squarely at BattleBots.
When was that incident when they shut down the filming for like 5 days because that guy got a spike through his foot?
Oh, I can't remember.
That must have been around that. That really pissed a lot of people off. I remember that. I mean, obviously it was terrible for the guy that got stabbed. But they made such a lot of fuss about not being in the arena when the robots are powered up that they were not following their own rules. And one of the production guys went in there and got stabbed. And it shut down production for at least 3 days. And people were all on holiday from work, and it was really starting to annoy people. But I guess it was just for double standards. That's what I remember being.
Yeah.
It just felt they weren't taking it seriously. I don't know.
It's like comparing amateurs and professionals.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I can follow that.
But ironically, you know who the executive producer is for BattleBots now?
Yeah.
But it's funny. I like him now. We chat quite a bit. He's a nice guy. But at the time, I remember saying unsporting things about him. It's not Steve Kelsey, by the way.
So while either Robot Wars or BattleBots weren't on the air, was there anything that you used to do, sort of to do with the sport, like go to the live events or anything like that?
Well, I used to do go and visit in schools to help with getting science clubs started, because there's no doubt that Robot Wars was responsible for starting a lot of children getting an interest in science, technology, and so on, more so than their normal stuff they did at school.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I did anything to do that, to be honest.
Well, you were working on your fish by then.
Yeah, I was off doing other projects.
Yeah.
A lot of the teams came into it from other things. So, like the Coopers are all helicopter champions, and a lot of people have done a lot of drone work, a lot of people special effects. But I came into it only having done a bit of robotics. I learned a lot. Most of what I learned, I probably learned from doing it. So I didn't have another kind of techie activity to do when I wasn't doing that.
Oh, fair enough.
Can't remember doing anything in particular. Didn't enter any other competitions. Didn't do any other technical sports particularly. Robot Wars is enough. I think probably by the time we'd done the filming, it was good to take a break.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I was heavily tied up with my company by then, trying to become a millionaire.
Did it work?
Oh yes, surprisingly it did work, but then we lost it all again in the crash.
Great crash. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
That finished for fish as well. Actually, we were talking to quite a lot of crems about the fish. 2008 finished a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, our company, we went from nothing over a period of 6 years. We became worth about £6 million, which mean if you know anything about business, a profitable company can be sold for about 5 times its annual turnover. So which meant we were worth possibly as much as 25 million. But everything collapsed in 2008, and people stopped ordering capital machinery. And the sort of stuff I was making cost $1.5 million a time. I'd agree with that.
Fair enough. Obviously, the show did come back after a bit of an absence. Did you guys see it at all? What did you think of the new series, and were you kind of interested in in competing at all.
But when did the new series start? Because I think this must be later on. Because
15 or 16, I can't remember.
Yeah.
16. BattleBots was back in 2015.
Yeah,
That's
I did the second one of those or the third one with the World Overlord. But after by that time had moved down to south of France. So after your company wrapped up, which took a couple of years, right? You then finally bought your place in the south.
No, I'd already had got the house. We bought this in 2000.
Okay, you finally
but we moved here in 2009.
Okay, yeah.
And I took early retirement from on my university pension until my UK old age pension kicked in as well.
So then you went off, and you and I hadn't talked. Didn't speak for a long time, really.
No,
I knew where you were. I knew I could always call if I wanted to, but I had kids. That's what happened to me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, life got in the way, didn't it?
So after, God, if I can rewind a bit, after Nottingham, I went back to university, and I met my future wife there, and I started a PhD because I wanted to get into to set up a robotics company. And whilst I was doing the PhD, an opportunity came up where I actually had to start a robot company anyway. So I quit the PhD and did that instead, by which time she had started a PhD, which we stayed on for her to continue. And then she got a job with the UN, and we moved to France and had 2 children. And that, I didn't know Robot Wars was on again until I saw an advert for it. I just completely lost interest, I guess, or just didn't have the time to think of anything else. And Arthur was down in the south. When did you have your stroke?
2014, that was.
So that was a bit after.
Yeah, and then kidney failure in 2015.
And Kim was unwell already before then, wasn't
Yeah.
he?
Yeah.
I mean, there's Robot Wars is, it dominates your time, and when you stop doing it, you suddenly realise there's other stuff you used to do, and maybe you should get on with some of that for a bit. So no, didn't even know it was on.
Oh, fair enough. Well, you mentioned OB Overlord. Well, I mean, I have so many questions because it's a wonderful thing.
Well, thank you very much. Not everyone thinks that, but
it's incredible. How did that happen?
First off, I've got to say, looking at it now, having made my comments earlier that Mortis was too complicated, I just think, what? That being said, I have designed another one. So, simpler, but crikey, how did that start? So I guess I saw that BattleBots had restarted and thought, yes, that was fun. I would definitely do that again. But let's do something a bit special. And what I had been doing professionally for a few years before then was making robots which copy the human anatomy, which actually started at Essex. So the job I meant, the company that I set up as a requisite to get European funding, you had to have at least one industrial partner. And the professor that I was working with got a consortium together with 4 universities, and they needed an industrial partner, and they needed someone that could physically manufacture the robots. So he said, would you set up a company, and then we can put you in the proposal, which we did, and we got funded for 4 years, much to our surprise. And so I was building these machines which have the same structure, the same skeleton, the same muscle layout. I only had one guy working for me, rented a workshop down here, and then we got friendly with a company called Maxon Motors. You know Maxon Motors at all?
I'm sure I've heard the name bounded about at some point.
It's a Swiss company, very high-end servos. To be fair, I've only ever met one person in the whole of the robot fighting world who's immediately known who they are, and all he said to me was, couldn't you find something more expensive? So, to give you an example, what Maxon are presently very happy about is it's their motors that are in the Mars rovers that have just launched.
Right.
So
high-end stuff.
Yeah, like aircraft. All the aircraft seats are now going to be motorized. Maxon Motors. If you're making a Bugatti Veyron and you want the tilt and the aerofoil at the back to be tiltable, use a Maxon motor. It's expensive stuff, but it's very reliable. You send it to Mars.
Okay.
And they were thinking maybe this robot stuff is going to happen. And after a long negotiation, we formed a collaboration with them. and they sponsored me for motors and also funding. And we did a lot of trade shows, and we built a lot of stuff, just in the kind of vein of Swiss watches, really over the top, really complex stuff that if you look at it, people would just stop dead and look at what the hell is that? And it was these full humanoids. It would wave at people. It would look them in the eye. And one of them is now on a tour with the Science Museum. In fact, it's just about to go to Hong Kong, which I'm a bit dubious about. But anyway, it's going. I don't digress again. So from that, I had a very good relationship directly with the CEO of Maxon, and I was one of his pet projects, where he would just kind of allow us to do crazy stuff. And we had a meeting, and I said, BattleBots is back. This is fantastic. This is a great show. I did it 20 years ago. Would you mind? And he sponsored it. Can we enter again? And he said, yeah, sure, go for it. I'll give you any motors you need. So we ordered a lot of motors, modified our resistant technology, got in touch with the people there. They remembered us, did the applications. And the real two main issues with that is we didn't get clearance to start building until I think February, and we flew in April or May.
Yeah, they're gonna be filming in April.
Which that's definitely the hardest I've ever worked. I think we were probably working until 3 in the morning most days, and then getting up at 7 for at least a month. And halfway through it, we had my mother-in-law actually got brain cancer, so we had to stop for 2 weeks, and that really pushed us over the edge, unfortunately. She's fine now. She's great, so it all worked out.
Good, excellent.
But we made it kind of. We finished that one as they were starting to film. I mean, that's as close as it ever got, and it never fully worked, unfortunately. In fact, I did not actually get to drive it. My arm stopped working.
Oh, you're joking?
Yeah. So that is my. I've not told anyone that publicly because it's just. So there you go. So we absolutely killed ourselves building it, and when we got there, we finally got it in. Had that one great fight against the Razor Boys, now with Warhead, their dragon fire breathing dragon mode. Couldn't speak afterwards when we tried to interview me, and then we all slept for 48 hours. Apparently one of the team guys was throwing up all night. I mean, I banged my thumb with a hammer when we were getting it ready before going in. I had a blood infection all up one arm. But we did it. First human being ever.
It was certainly unique.
Yeah.
Certainly. Tendon driven. It's got ball and socket joints. That's why it's so tough. People were amazed it lasted so long. But I mean, it's like the human body. If it takes too much force, the shoulder joints can all move around. It was all elastically held together. So it was, I don't know, it was a crazy thing to do.
Yeah.
A triumph and a disaster.
So what does the future hold? Would you go back to BattleBots again? Would you compete on the live circuit, or is there anything else sort of going forwards that you'd like to do?
There's a couple of things actually. One of the things I'd like to make happen is a quick little competition in the UK in the coming months, because a lot of people were building up the competitions which are no longer going to happen.
Yep.
And it occurred to me one day that the main cost of setting up a competition is building the arena, particularly in the modern era, because it needs to be all Lexan and transparent, and it's an expensive thing to do. And the main reason you do that is so that the audience can see. But if there's no audiences because of COVID, then you don't need that. You just need a concrete basement somewhere and a bunch of idiots with robots to fight against each other. And we have lots and lots of people with robots that are ready to go. If I can find a venue, there's been a lot of interest, but we're just looking for a venue. And it would just be a very no audience, just a bunch of, just like the old days, like an extended pub meet where we actually do some serious fighting.
Yeah.
If you need some heavyweights, I know 2 people in this call will definitely love to come and compete.
No, if there's anything we can do with getting some exposure through this interview, if anyone has a building which is due to be demolished but is not fully condemned yet, that would let us smash it up, then there's a lot of very happy and grateful roboteers that would turn up and turn it into a bit of a show. Now, whether or not we generate some footage which can subsequently be sold or whatever, I've no idea, but the starting point is just a big concrete hole in the ground and a couple of windows to hide behind, that'll do it these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's one thing. And then I was actually building for the next series of BattleBots. Maxon still sponsors me for Mortis, and I've done a new design which is much simpler mechanically for the World Overlord. And I was starting to build that up, but then everything happened, and nothing's happening now. So I'm sitting surrounded by piles of boxes. In fact, I haven't even unpacked. So that's me. What about you, Arthur?
No, I'm retired. I've got my workshop. I've got an extremely well-equipped workshop. I can make virtually anything.
Yes, you can.
Plastics, anything like that. I'm trying to get work done on the house, but I've been too ill to do it. And just really started again just recently. We need ceilings and things, instead of just being able to see the floorboards upstairs.
Okay, well, with that, it pretty much brings things to a wrap. But there is a couple of things to do. Well, one thing I very much want to ask: what was, I think you kind of alluded to earlier, but what was, your kind of favourite fight with Mortis?
For me, has to be Frenzy, I think.
That's a good one. I always enjoyed the one against Tazboy, in fact. Donald Hudson in BattleBots.
Yeah.
Because that one went back and forth and was a very interesting, unusual robot.
It's so cool. I love Tazbot so much.
Yeah. It's a great one, and Donald's a great guy as well. And we had that was a great fight, and one that I actually won, possibly through driving not terribly for once. So that's a nice bonus.
Of course, there's the other thing about that 99 BattleBots is that we were actually voted the most aggressive robot by all volunteers.
I was going to say you do have a giant that's in your collection as well.
Yeah, somewhere.
Do we get a nut?
Yeah, we got a nut and a go ped, didn't we? The go ped.
Have you got the nut?
Sorry?
Seriously, I don't remember did we?
Yeah.
Can you find that?
Oh, I'll have to have a look.
Oh, please do. That's magic. I thought I'd never won anything. Really? Really? God, how have I forgotten that? That's awful.
I was going to ask who has the trophies, but
we haven't got many trophies. I just see us.
Well, the ones we had were the BBC ones, which were absolute crap.
Yeah, they were truly appalling.
Yeah. So, terrible stuff. The War of Independence one looked like somebody maybe spent 3 or 4 seconds thinking about it and 10 or 12 making it.
No, it was not impressive. Definitely a low priority.
No.
But they were all a bit. What was it that guy used to say from FX? He said it's really badly made, so it has to work.
Yeah.
They were. I mean, they got like 2 weeks to put the house robots together. They got this time.
Yeah.
No, seriously, if we've got a nut somewhere, I'd love to have it, to be honest.
Okay.
Christy.
I have 2 tea chests behind me filled with robot bits.
Oh, if you find it, send me a picture. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
Ah, cool. Well, that's made my day. Thank you very much. I told you we never took the competition a bit seriously, but I'm still vaguely shocked to have forgotten that.
Thank you for joining us and giving us about an hour of your time. It's been really good talking to you both.
Well, thank you very much. That was good fun.
Thanks, guys.
To reminisce.
Absolutely. All right, thanks, guys.
Well, there you go.